Welcome, everyone, to the Northeast Indiana Basketball Summit. I'm your host, Ben Smith, joined by my co-host, Jeff Metzger. Before introducing our guest, we want to thank Feel for the Game for providing the platform to have all these presentations live and available for replay. You can check out all the resources over at feelforthegame.com.
So today we have a 2003 graduate of Belmont High School, graduated in 2007 from IU University with a degree in secondary education, English. Right now he's the head coach at Snider High School, where he teaches English as well. I'd like to welcome Jeremy Rauch.
Hey, thank you, and appreciate you guys having me. You know, obviously being a coach at Snider, and that's kind of what the audience is right now, is the Northeast Indiana Basketball Summit. You know, I really appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and you know, it's impressive that not only have you guys got the lineup, but you guys are willing to spend all this time and talk to coaches and learn, and I think that speaks a lot about, you know, who you guys are and your ambitions as basketball coaches. So I think that's really commendable, and I appreciate being on. One of the things that we're doing with Feel for the Game, and obviously I've started this with some coaching buddies that are actually on the call, and Heath Howington and Nate Kangany, is just the idea of growing and connecting and learning and sharing. And we got a chance to talk to Phil Beckner not too long ago, and those guys, or Heath reached out and was able to get him on. We were able to kind of pick his brain a little bit about improving our craft, but also we took so much more from it, just in terms of maybe how to contribute to our brand and to continue to grow with the message of impacting somebody else. And I think that that's what we're trying to do with Feel for the Game. But I also think that's what we do as coaches. Like, we want to improve others with the way that we do things. And that's why we're coaches of team sports, and that's what's been rewarding so far. His brand is be different, or be better, be different. And you know, his idea is that you should always look to be a better version of yourself. And sometimes you have to have a different mindset, a different approach, especially if you're not the best. You have to do things a little bit differently, especially in your approach to how you do things. So I kind of took that concept and thought that you know, with all you guys have 27 speakers. So with all the things that you guys have going on, I thought I'd do something just a little bit different in capturing kind of what we do with Snider basketball. So I'm going to bring this up, and we have what we'll say is a photographic look at this past season. And so the idea here is, what I did was took pictures that were on my phone. And the significance of just pictures that were on my phone was they had to have some level of significance to be able to, you know, obviously I wanted to revisit it somehow. So somehow it was literally a snapshot of where our program was at that time. So everything here is kind of just like the tip of the iceberg. It's just a quick look at what we do, and I'll talk a little bit about how we do it and why we do it. And then if there's obviously any questions or coaches that are on you know, this call now want to ask at the end, or I'll provide contact information to be able to dig a little bit deeper into anything that might strike some interest. So the Snider Way, a photographic look at this past season. And this was in, this is our coaches retreat. This was in October, and I probably sent this out early October as just kind of our itinerary. And we do this every year, and it's an opportunity for our coaches to get together, to spend some time together, get out of town a little bit, kind of get back in the swing of basketball. You know, I'm always in basketball mode, but, you know, some guys might need to kind of get into the mindset of being around and start thinking about basketball a little bit. It also allows us to see what other teams are doing. So I really recommend visiting college practices. Over the last 10 years, we've been able to see the IU, Purdue, Xavier, Ohio State, you know, some of the USI, Evansville. We've been able to see some games. And you can see here, we went to Michigan. We've been to Michigan State, Oakland here. We went to go see Pistons Cavs preseason game. So again, it's just an opportunity to be about basketball, but then we really want to like learn and apply maybe some of the things that we do learn into what's coming up for the season. And, obviously this is a PowerPoint presentation. I can take the best parts of our program and make it look clean and pristine, and everybody understands that. But when you go to a college practice and practices can be messy, and you can see how coaches respond to that, and you can see how players respond to that, and different coaching styles and different teaching points. I think that visiting a college practice is something I would really recommend, especially for younger coaches, and just learning about what other coaches are doing. And then we don't get that opportunity very often. I mean, I would love the opportunity to go see what high school coaches are doing, but obviously their schedule is the same as our schedule, so we don't get that opportunity. In the fall, you get that chance a little bit with college, and that's what's really been beneficial. And then the last thing is the actual clinic that we go to. So Oakland is just outside of Detroit, and we go to the BCAM clinic, Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. And I mean, it is exceptional. I mean, just last year, Izzo, Nate Oates, Martelli, who was on this summit conversation talking about, similar type thing. Spring Arbor's coach, who had just won a national championship. So, I mean, it's really, really good. The IBCA is good as well. It's in the spring and April traditionally. But the BCAM in the fall is one that I'd really recommend as well. So from that, the next picture that I found was Snider basketball conditioning picture. And so what this is, let me bring up my bullets here, is we do a baseline mile at the beginning and then a post mile at the end of conditioning. Our conditioning will just kind of depends on weather and schedule. I mean, we don't have hard and fast things, but they generally is 4 to 6 weeks where we get outside or we do one long hard conditioning day. And one of those is the beginning mile, and then obviously the end mile. I understand that a lot of coaches don't necessarily see the transfer between running a mile and basketball shape, and if it's really that indicative of how in shape a person is. And I agree with that. But I like the mile because it's a combination of speed and quickness and conditioning, endurance, and just toughness. And to run 4 laps, you have to have a little bit of toughness, and you're going to reach a point where you're tired. And how you respond once you're tired, I think, says a lot about you. So that's why we do the mile. Guys know that they're going to have to, that they're expected to not only improve their time. We like our guards to be around 5:30 and everybody else to be around 6. Obviously, we don't have hard and fast rules, but we say that those are the standards of whether you're going to be a varsity player. Is if you're going to be a varsity guard, there's no reason that you shouldn't be around a 5:30 mile. So I really like this drill, and I'll talk about this before I get into our basketball practices. So this is our 400 repeats. So we just do 6 of them, and each of them are at goal pace for their post mile. And so this post mile would be at a 5-minute mile, and these 3 guys are capable of that. Not everybody is. We have 20, 25 kids running the mile or involved in our conditioning that's not in the spring or not in the fall sport. But these are 3 that are capable of running a 5-minute mile if they really challenge themselves. So with that, we do 4 groups, A, B, C, and D, and a coach, and we have 6 or 7 coaches that want to be a part of our staff, which we appreciate, and we give each team a coach to kind of follow them around. So the A team coach is going to write down the scores, B team coach write down the scores, C team, D team. But I really like it as we keep moving, because there's 4 groups that have to run 6, 400-meter repeats. So when A finishes, they recover, and then B runs right when they finish, B goes. And then that coach is timing theirs. And then as B goes, C is on deck. And then D is a teammate. So they've got to spread around the track and ensure that their teammates get the best time they can while A recovers. When B finishes, that coach is right in that time. They're recovering. C is running. D is on deck. A is a teammate. And then B is recovering. So it's a quick way to kind of cycle through and get everybody involved. Everybody has to be a teammate. Every assistant coach that's there is involved. And obviously they're running at the pace that they're expected to get to for their post mile. So that's what we do. One day, we don't always do repeats, but we do repeats. We do 400 and 800 repeats consistently, as well as some on-court conditioning. we, just like everybody else that's in Indiana, we get 2 hours a day, 2 days a week in the fall to work out with our guys. And that usually starts for us around Labor Day. And one day we dedicated last year to FIBA 3-on-3 and volume shooting. So if you're not familiar with FIBA 3-on-3 rules, it's super fast paced. It's 12-second shot clock. Ball goes through the net. It's the next team's ball. They outlet it out to the 3-point line, and it's there's no checking it up, nothing like that when the ball goes through the net. The guys really, really like it. It's a way to get a lot of reps. If nothing else, we call it skill development. They've got to make decisions. They've got to play fast. They've got to be in a little bit of shape. They play 2 games of FIBA 3-on-3 each of the days that we have it. And then obviously they've got to learn some togetherness and things like that. But it's just a way to get them in the mindset of basketball and making quick decisions and playing faster, shooting threes. It's 1s and 2s scoring, and it's something that's just a little more game-like than volume shooting, although we do a lot of volume shooting as well, where we call volume shooting is ball and a partner, Celtic hit 2 in a row at 5 spots around it back in 2 minutes. That's something that we would call volume shooting, and we do a fair amount of that. So that's one day. And then the next day we do some more skill development. We do some one-on-one, and then we do introduce an offensive and a defensive concept that hopefully is just something that we can build on throughout the preseason. So maybe it's defensive concept number 1, we're in our stance and we jump to the ball. Or we talk about we want your hands where we want their hands on the ball. Or maybe it's getting to midline as we continue to progress it. It's nothing crazy. We do have a lot of guys, and we'll talk about this in a minute, with that play football. So obviously we're not going to install our whole offense, but we do want to give our guys an opportunity to develop in a team setting who are with us. I think that we owe them that as coaches of basketball, that to help them be ready for the actual season when they come in from a team standpoint as well. Another thing we do is we like to get to our middle schools, and getting to our middle schools can be hard for us. The schedule isn't necessarily ideal. So this was probably about 6:55. And I guess maybe it's a little bit later, maybe 7:55 at this point. School starts for them before 7:15 is when school starts. So this must have been during a homeroom period. And we like to bring our younger players. So each of these guys were sophomores for us. And these 2 played varsity and started maybe like a game or 2. And he's got a chance for a big varsity role this coming season as well. And that's the initial message is, he played varsity as a freshman. Some of you guys are 8th graders. You might be ready for varsity at that level, with that in mind. Are your habits on and off the court, do they prepare you for what could be varsity basketball? And if not varsity basketball, if you're on JV, then you're practicing against varsity basketball. So are you ready for that type of basketball commitment? And that's one of the reasons we try to bring our younger guys. And, these guys will be teammates in a couple years for a couple years. So we want to emphasize that part of it as well. And so it's kind of a snapshot for these guys to say, this is what we stand for. Each of them will talk about something. Be a good person on and off the court. Make sure your grades are right. Work on your game. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. And it's really probably one of the first times that we get a chance for these people, these younger players, to be salesmen in our program. And, a lot of times we see the juniors and seniors are the ones that are kind of the ambassadors to our program, but we try to mix in our younger guys as well. So it's a chance to sell our program, chance to, talk about being a champion on and off the court. And then often in the spring, I think we did it every year but one, we do a skills clinic. And it's boys and girls. It's a one Saturday in October where they kind of, it's a bit of a, rust buster, if you will, to get ready for their own tryouts. I love team things that are fundraisers and community things that are team things where, we can kind of check a lot of those things off. And for us, a skills clinic does that. It gives us a chance to build a little bit of money into our account before the season. Our guys are around the court and are spending time with our younger players, and they get spending time with each other as well. Next picture I had, we had a chance to go to Michigan State as a high school team. It's not very often our football program, finishes their season early, but we had that and we took the opportunity to go to Michigan State. And this is just about everybody who has had a strong role with us for varsity or JV. And sometimes we're able to, and sometimes we're not. I do believe that team bonding can help. I don't believe that it's necessarily the driver of team chemistry on the court. I think that you have team chemistry first, and then the team bonding just makes everything else more fun. I do believe that it comes, you have to be a team on the court before you can really enjoy each other, off the court, or the on the court chemistry is definitely most important. But it does allow us to build relationships. I'm with these guys all day. They're with each other all day. A lot of them do play football. So it becomes, let's get into that basketball mindset. And this was, one of the first times, I think I just finished my 4th year, and this was the second time we were able to take a group to a college practice. We went to Purdue the fall of my first year, and then here Michigan State this past fall. And it's so important to me to let them see and hear what a high level practice looks like. Just the energy when they're doing skills before practice even starts, or just the way that the guys communicate. And, some of those coaches at Michigan State are going to talk to the guys in a lot different way than what we talk to them at Snider, but to get them to see, like, well, maybe, coach isn't that hard on me, or maybe they do have our best interest. And then players holding players accountable, and they get to see that part of it too. So obviously when college basketball comes into play and you see a practice like that, like, it's a business, and they've got to execute, and they've got to perform, and to see that type of level of intensity, I think is really, really valuable for our guys to see as we approach our own practices, which was like a week or two after that. This must have been right before, with a meeting with my assistant coaches, a final putting things together. This is how we wanted to play. Any Snider basketball system that we were going to commit to for that year was going to be a commitment with at least our JV and varsity. Because if we were moving kids around, or the way that we practice our JV and varsity together. So when we spell out what our system is, it becomes at least a JV and varsity. And in this case, in a lot of ways, it was freshman JV and varsity. Some of it's going to change. This system for us last year last 2 seasons ago, we didn't have any seniors. So at that time, we said, whatever we're going to do, we need to make a 2-year commitment to it. And we got through that year and we said, okay, let's change everything. And so we did, and we came up with this. And we felt like with the team that we had, I believe that you could try to beat teams with structure, and you have to be the better team, and you have to maybe slow things down, and you have to system a team, or you can beat teams with personnel. And when you beat teams with personnel, you want more possessions. You want to be able to play that you want to play. You want open space, and you want players to make plays. And in that case, I think that that's where we were last year. Next year, it might be something different. In 2 years, maybe we come back. It just kind of depends. We do adapt our system, particularly defensively. We adapt our system to the personnel that we have. Now, with our offense, I think it's general enough in its concepts that allows for enough flexibility to say that we're still going to be in go flow base set next year. Go is phase 1 of our offense. It's transition. Anybody can start the fast break. If you get the rebound, you have the responsibility of making the right play as you go on and initiate the fast break. We try to pass the ball ahead once they cross the center line, and play with a numbers advantage. Everything for us is about getting attacking advantages, getting a numbers advantage, and then attacking it. Flow for us is dribble drive, whether it's our transition that we don't have anything, or we try to run a base or a set, and it's the play after the play. What are we into? And so again, it's mostly just alignment, and then it's things like catch fearless, Spurs rule, which means we want to shoot it, drive it, move it in a second or less. I think the Spurs is a half a second, but for us, it's a second or less. and catch with a plan, those types of terminology. Our guys will hear a lot in terms of flow. Penetrate, pass, play unselfish, get downhill, a lot of those types of things. Then if we don't have anything, we might get into a base. A base for us is something maybe on a dead ball, maybe late in the game where it's less about, it's less about personnel and more about winning the game. Then we're into our 5-out continuity. A set is a play designed to get a player scoring opportunity in his area of strength. And if we look at play through, sometimes that means that it's our best player, and sometimes the best mismatch is our best player against their probably best defender. But it may not always be the case. Sometimes our third best perimeter player is a great matchup against their third best perimeter defender. And I feel like we had that a lot this past year, which is probably why we got zoned a lot. But that's the way. So the plays are so simple that anybody can play any spot. It could be something as easy as a high ball screen. Anybody could set it. Anybody could come off of it. Everybody else spaces around. But we try to look at maybe what the best mismatch there is. Everyone rebounds except for the shooter, and you can see that there's some typo stuff. I didn't quite get it cleaned up yet. But the shooter enjoys a shot. We don't say follow your shot. We don't say get back. What are you thinking about when you shoot? Nothing. You play on instincts. You let it fly. Otherwise, everybody else is an offensive rebounder. We don't have hole and ball, and it did hurt us a little bit, especially early on, because this rebounding system was different for us. But we get physical. We jam that defensive player down and hopefully into the corners. And then as soon as they get the basketball, then in a lot of cases, we're right there guarding them. And so that's how we negate transition. Is we're physical with the play, or we try to be physical with who's our defender currently, pushing them down as far as possible. And then if the ball comes our way, we don't flood weak side, or we don't think about offensive rebounding from a zone standpoint. We think about it from a man-to-man standpoint, where it's one-on-one rebound. If the ball comes your way, we got to make sure we get it. If we don't get it, we're in our man right there. And that's our full court man press. As soon as they get the ball, we're in our defense. We do a lot of force weak hand. We try to establish what hand we want to push them to. That has been beneficial. I think a big reason it's been beneficial is a lot of good players can go left, let's say, but they may not be able to pass with their left hand as well. And so that's been kind of the purpose for pushing people to their left hand is not only making them have to score in a way that's uncomfortable for them, but also making plays in ways that they may not be able to. And finally, simply, it becomes challenge every pass, every dribble, every shot. There were some cases where our system, really helped teams play the way they wanted to play, and we had to adjust down the stretch. We gave up a lot of points. Even in our wins, we gave up more points to transition teams and teams that wanted to play fast because we were full court pressing. So right towards the end, we did kind of make a system change where we felt like we weren't going to press teams that actually helped. But by and large, this was our system. So we're right at the beginning of our practices. We've established our tryouts. If you look up here, these are our team photos. And for us, for whatever reason, this is 10 years doing it, picture day is always just a nuisance. And so it became, how can we turn a negative into a positive? So we embraced it. We said, okay, on Saturday, photographers coming in, we're bringing the media in, we're having our mini camp, but we're going to have media day as part of our mini camp. So you see a photographer there getting ready for senior banners, team picture, local media, and we just embraced it. And the parents were allowed to come, and instead of being frustrated or yelling at them to get in the locker room and get changed and hurry up to practice, and then you got them half interested into practice, we were just going to give it its due time. You could see the players posing off to the side and kind of doing the things that we want to do, and we want to welcome that. We want them to be excited about being in their jersey, and we don't want it necessarily to be something that's rushed. So we gave it its due time, and this is the second year that we've done this, and it's been really good, and we'll continue to build and grow with it. And then it culminates into a first full 4-quarter scrimmage. So it's usually like the Saturday of our first week of practices. We bring in an official, talks about coming up, points of emphasis for the year. What are the things that officials are talking about? What are the things that any rule changes, particularly with equipment? We go through that type of stuff, and then we get into our scrimmage. Inter-squad scrimmages, as the head coach, they never go well, right? Because one team does well, which means half of your players are not doing what they are supposed to be doing. So I've realized that I'm going to step away. My two varsity assistants are going to coach a team. I'm on clock, or I'm on something where I don't even have to think about coaching a whole lot. We catch it on film, and then we learn and we grow from it with that. First game. This is our Snider game card. So this is what one of our assistants keeps with fouls and timeouts, any plays that we need to know, especially blobs or slobs or late game, and then any notes. I made this up for when I was coaching with EYBL, and that's why you're probably wondering, like, this guy didn't know what he's talking about. We only have 5 timeouts. So shortly after that, I got rid of one of those 30s, but with EYBL, there's 6 timeouts. So that's the game card. And then this idea of together is something that I think is neat. And somebody had taken a picture of that and sent it to me. And obviously being game one, I thought that was kind of cool. But together was the mantra that we went with when I first got to Snider, and what we were going to do and what we were going to accomplish was going to be together. And the idea of huddling up is something that we did at DeKalb, and I think they might still do that, and something that we did at Southridge, and I think they still do that as well. Is just being unified in what we're doing. Anytime a coach addresses the whole team in practice, or obviously in a game, anybody who's not seated is in a huddle. And we got some pictures of this was evaluation night for the YMCA, and it's another opportunity. Like I said, it's a team building for us. It's team bonding, and it's also giving back. And to be able to help with YMCA basketball, I think is really good for us. In fact, one of the things I did early on when I got to Snider, I said, what does basketball look like in the area, and how can we be a part of it? And YMCA just recently got a new sports director, and he's been excellent about welcoming us in. And we put them through drills, and some of the players, some of our high school players were putting them into drills, and some of them were evaluating them so that everybody could kind of be on an equal team. And so we had the bodies to be able to support that. We had the people that kind of knew about the game a little bit. And so we were able to offer our help, and it was a time to kind of be together and be out in the community. This Y is only a mile down the road for us. So it really worked out well. Varsity schedule for the week 12-16. We do weekly remind messages. Okay, so that's in general, that's what this is. Not sure why I took a picture of it, maybe to send it out, I suppose. But busy week. A couple things I wanted to point out is obviously we've got 3 games. We've got a practice at Indiana Tech. Like we've got to, and I'm sure all schools have their own different things that they've got to adapt to. We don't always have court time. We host gymnastics, we host wrestling, other thing, other gyms around us. We don't have a lot of courts. I mean, they're hard to get to. So sometimes we have to practice off site, and we just adapt. And our guys have been great about that. Team dinner has really been a positive. We instilled that 2 seasons ago into this past season. And I think it's another opportunity, one, to bring the parents into it. And I think that's good to welcome parents into our program, as well as anytime you get the kids to kind of eat together, spend time together, especially the day before a game, it's been positive. As well as playing at Grace has been, and playing in showcase games has been really neat. And we've been trying to set our schedule for that. And it was finals week. And so attack everything is another thing that I'm sure our guys hear a lot. Man, the role of assistant coaches, or the role that coaches have in our lives is something to be revered and something special. This was a birthday party for one of our assistant coaches, this guy right here. He's been with me for 5 of the 6 years that I've been up here. And this is important to me, is having coaches that want to be together, and coaches that want to spend time together, that want to talk ball, that are a family. because we can't say together or we can't be a family if we don't have everybody bought in. One of the things I talk to about our assistant coaches is, you should never have to, if a parent is complaining to you, you should never have to say, go talk to coach. Because with that complaint, you should probably know, or you probably should know what my perspective on that situation is. You don't have to say what you think. You could say, well, what coach is probably thinking is this, but you may have to talk to him, or, I'll talk to him and have him reach out. That type of thing has been positive in that we just want one unified message. And I feel like if we're a unified team on and off the court, that supports that. So some of these guys were former coaches all together, and some current coaches and some other buddies as well. So and that was a neat thing. And this was my high school coach. Coach Busick's at Zionsville now, was at Belmont when I was there, and we got to play Zionsville this past season, and being able to follow his success and he following mine, and then playing each other was something special too. And I consider Coach one of my mentors, and it was neat playing against him and winning. Now we're into the second semester, and one of the things we do at Snider, if this is one of the things that is truly the Snider way, we do a morning leadership class, and it's open to band, student council, all the sports, any student groups at Snider, they are invited to morning leadership class. It meets once a week on Wednesdays, just about the entire semester, and we use a lot of Tim Elmore's habitudes. We use some other things as well, and this was my opportunity to present, and I usually present about one time, and our football coach kind of drives it. But it's really, really good. It's geared for incoming seniors so it's the second semester, so current juniors, incoming seniors for the next season. And football players obviously make up a healthy dose of it. We ask our current juniors, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we play Tuesday night games, but the ones that are committed, you get to see, which guys are willing to do that. And there you go, January 22nd to May 27th, and it's been really, really good. With the idea of the football team, this is something that I think that we really, really embrace the football program. So this was at a signing. He's playing at Rose Holman. He's playing at Marion football next year, and then he's playing at UND. Can't quite see him. So we had 3 basketball players playing that are going to go on to play college football. And the first thing that I would say to coaches that might be looking at other schools, or that look at taking a job, I really believe this, that you have to look at the football program as the thermostat or I guess the thermometer for the athletic culture. So I think that football drives the athletic culture of the school. For one, it's just so many more players and accessing so many different student groups. So you get a lot of different people. If you're a good, successful football program, you're probably big in numbers. And when you're big in numbers, you have all different types of people and different student interests that are going to support that. And when they support football, they're more likely to support all of athletics. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that then they have the model. Snider football has the model for what it takes to be successful. All we got to do is say we're a part of that. We're going to do what they do. That's one of the first things that I did when I got to Snider, is I talked to Coach Tip and said, if it can be successful, if you can have sustained success in football, then why can't we have sustained success in basketball? And so, we were able to have that dialogue, and it ultimately comes down to, well, you got to put in the work. We've got to put in the work to be able to deserve that success. Okay, well, what do you do to deserve that success? Well, we go to summer gym. So we're doing our summer gym now. Summer gym is Monday through Friday in the summer. Who knows what it's going to look like this summer? 8 to 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is the lift. Tuesday, Thursday is the conditioning. I will say what we do is the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do the lift. We play a lot on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's when we have our practices. So we're not as concerned with the conditioning at that time as maybe what they would be being a season before us. But we do the same lifts, and it's total body, and it's boys and girls with appropriate modifications in there. And it's been really, really beneficial. And with that, I think sometimes we have guys that say, well, shoot, if I'm going to be doing this, then I might as well be out there with the team on Friday nights. And we encourage our guys to play football as well. And just that dynamic isn't always a healthy relationship between football coaches and basketball coaches, but we have made it such, and I think we're both reaping the rewards of that. In fact, what they allow me to do is when the freshmen have their last football game, their last home football game, I'll go into the locker room and talk to them about what basketball looks like. We encourage them to stay with the practice team. Anybody who does that, we do a separate tryout generally, because they're into the season, they're into the playoffs a lot later than what our tryouts start. So we kind of talk about those logistics, but we definitely embrace Snider football. This was a cool opportunity to be able to kind of be a face for the basketball community locally when Kobe died. I think maybe partially it helps with that we're so welcoming with the media, but to get the call to ask our response for Kobe's death and to be able to bring these guys in here, I think was really special, and obviously they really appreciate it as well. And again, anytime we get a chance to promote our program, I think is a good thing. And anytime they get a chance to be in front of a camera or to public speak, so to speak, it allows them to take basketball beyond just the court. With Kobe's passing, we kind of switched one of our points of emphasis on the scouting report. So you can see this as an example as kind of a snapshot of our scouting report. But in this box here, it used to say AE all night long, attitude and effort all night long. And I got that from Coach Busick. But we felt like if we wanted to honor, Kobe's legacy, let's do so in a way with our preparation that just makes sense. So every game following that, we put a Mamba mentality, a quote up as something to kind of be mindful of as we prepare for the next game. So that's Mamba mentality. Our personnel is kind of basic. We don't do too much with our detail. A lot of it is push left, force we can, push left, pressure, push left. We don't necessarily guard or close out differently unless it's like super obvious. Like we won't long close out a big guy, but generally we kind of just close out on everybody the same. But then we have to be aware of their strengths. Below this is all I got for the picture, and I wanted to challenge myself and limit myself to what the picture showed. Below this would show their offensive philosophy, our defensive keys, their defensive philosophy, our offensive keys, and in the middle of our keys, we have our non-negotiables. Our non-negotiables are kind of team established, what's important to winning, what happens the most. I've heard a lot in a lot of these clinics, we want to be good at what happens the most, and we're the same way. For us, our non-negotiables are sprinting the floor, rebound, play with a positive attitude. And so those are our non-negotiables, and those, it goes a little bit deeper than that, and I'd be happy to share this, at a different time if somebody has a question, but it also goes into our communication system with our non-negotiables as well. Family is basketball, and basketball is family. That's my boy Keegan, my older son, he's 6. We went to a Butler game. My wife and I went to Arkansas. Didn't go to Arkansas. I went to the IU versus Arkansas game. We went to Cincinnati and saw Houston, who I consider Coach Sampson one of my mentors. And so when we're in the season, and even when we're not in the season, but when we have basketball crazed coaches, and I would consider myself one, we talk about balance a lot, and I think that it's important a lot. But I also think that if you draw this binary between family and basketball and think of them as disconnected, then I think that there can be a lot of issues with that. So especially during the season, family is basketball and basketball is family. This was our senior night. He's playing football at Purdue now. He played for us for 2 years, basketball for us for 2 years at Snider. He came in and talked to the guys, and that's part of our together. We want to make sure that we're a program that extends itself to future Panthers, but also to former Panthers, and that you're all Panthers and that you're always a Panther. And that's important to us. And then basketball is family, and family is basketball. These are my seniors with my family after senior night, and this is probably one of my favorite coaching pictures that we can have, just the genuine enjoyment for each other. and with my family, I think is why we do it. That's pretty special. That culminated into a championship. And this was my first sectional championship in 10 years. And it was rewarding to do it with the guys that have been with me for 4 years at Snider. Rebound, rebound, rebound. I think that was a big thing for us all year long. A picture of the bubble. We take the bubble with us on road games. We made sure we brought it with us into the locker room for our sectional championship game. We say offense sells tickets, defense wins games, rebounds win championships. If you look close enough, you can see signatures on it. Anybody who gets 10 rebounds in a game gets to sign the bubble. And even if you do it more than once, you get to sign it more than once. So hopefully we've got Malik's signature on there. Dylan's a handful of times. Malik averaged a double-double. And then, obviously we've got different guys. I think we had 3 or 4 different guys that had double-digit rebounds. So that's clearly just a big point of emphasis. And just the idea of trusting the process. So often we as coaches talk about being process-oriented. Fix the inputs and the outputs will fix themselves. And it's neat to see one of our players embrace that. So when we get to play a week longer than what a lot of teams were able to play. And we appreciated that opportunity, and we know how hard it is to get to that point. We did do another media day. I'm just kind of anal about my practice times, and I want no distractions and that type of thing. And I understand that there's distractions in the games and all that, but I didn't want to be in a situation where we were kind of having different media outlets coming in at different times. So we all did it at one time, took care of that. And then in a time where we get to enjoy, the successes of what we've earned, we also wanted to make sure we gave back. So we took a day and we did thank you cards to different people that helped us along the way. We made sure we got those out to these people as well. And then it culminated into our season being over. And I wouldn't normally be an advocate for pushing out text conversations among my players, but I think that, this was pretty powerful in that they wanted to keep playing. They wanted the chance to continue to play and continue to practice with each other. And I think we had shirts when I was at IU with Coach Sampson that said, March, play as long as you want to. And some teams are just mentally and emotionally exhausted and they're done. And I've had teams like that. And these guys weren't like that. They wanted to play for each other more, and they wanted to see how far we could get. And I think that really reflects that. And I think that reflects the types of kids that we had as well. So in closing, we don't always get those types of classes. We don't always get those types of teams. But the more that we fight for our culture every day, and the more that we are intentional about how we do things and why, I think the more we can create environments that we can have those types of teams a lot more frequently. So that's all I have for you guys. I welcome any questions that the coaches might have.
Yeah, I thought that was obviously really great. We look behind the scenes. One question I had, with the unified voice and, wanting to have the same message, from any one of the coaches or players to any other member, how do you empower your coaching staff while maintaining that unified voice?
Well, that's a great question. And, I think that what we do is we try to do our best to empower them or to create what that voice sounds like behind closed doors. So that, listen, you might disagree with me. We might not agree on everything. We're not supposed to agree on everything. Let's get it out. Let's have that conversation. I think the more that you're able to get the feeling of creating a togetherness, the more likely you are to get coaches being willing to share, things that they disagree with. Let's get it out there. We check in with our guys as frequently as we can in terms of whole team meetings, and we have weekly emails that we push out as well. But once we leave the coach's office, agree or not, that's when we have to be unified.
Great. Jeff, did you have something?
Yeah. Where do you think basketball in Fort Wayne's heading?
A great question too. I think it's one of those where we've had a lot of top end talent lately. Jay Butts, Malik's, those types of guys. And I'm not sure if we have a lot of guys like that. So I think that the parity of basketball is going to kind of normalize a little bit, and it's going to get to who's going to commit to the habits of doing what it takes consistently. And I think that to take that one step further, I think that we can all learn all that we can and grab some teaching points from different coaches in all these clinics. And I get it and I'm for it. And what Feel for the Game is really too is like, it comes down to just doing it and applying it. And how can we take what we learn to help these players create a level of habits that's going to allow them success. When the floor is, or I guess when everything's kind of level and there's not a lot of teams, it's just head and shoulders above, and not a lot of players, it's just head and shoulders above. It's going to become more about what you do every day and how you improve. And so to answer your question in that regard, I'm really curious to see how it will.
Thank you.
Awesome. I don't see any questions from the group chat, but I put the setting on where anyone can unmute themselves since we only have a handful of people in here.
Sure.
But I know Brandon said thank you, Coach. I'm pretty sure that's Brandon Durnell. So, yeah, I don't have anything else. I was great to see the pictures and then get the story behind them, so I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you.
I don't know, unless you have anything else, Mets, we can wrap up. But
No, that was all. Good presentation, Jay.
I appreciate you guys.
Get the support with this event and then everything else that we're doing for the community in general. So just keep forging ahead and we'll make this thing happen.
Thank you very much, Ben.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
So great presentation. I appreciate the different style of the picture stuff. That was unique.
Thank you.
So I always like to hear from head coaches on what makes a good assistant. I've been with Ryan Varga at Washington for this will be my third year now. So, but I'm always curious on what head coaches view a good assistant being.
So, I think the candid response traditionally is loyalty, right? And I would agree with that. I would define loyalty as presenting the unified message that we would want, whether or not you agree or disagree with it. I think a great assistant coach is someone who is ambitious enough to have the desire to be a head coach. Maybe they don't actually want to be the head guy, but we would want their commitment level and their willingness to do other things to be that of what could be in time a head coach. I don't necessarily need, and this is just maybe me personally, I don't need a ton of like X's and O insight, but I might need a whole bunch of check in with this player. What's the pulse of this, and build the connection with the players, and also being willing to take things off my plate, fundraising, tracking money, a lot of the things that really are the lifeblood of running a good program, but can become stagnant if only one person is a part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I got one more thought I'd like to get your opinion on. So, you've been in practice with, Tom Izzo, Michigan State, and I know he is fiery. And then I don't know if Kelvin Sampson's, different style, but like over the last 10, 15 years with, younger generation, how have you seen coaching styles evolve to kind of handle all the stuff that the kids do these days, I guess?
Right. So, and it's interesting that you mentioned both of those coaches because they both have the same mentor coach in Judd Heathcote. Coach Sampson was at Michigan State as a GA at one time. And I think that what people say about both of those coaches is they're going to demand and they're probably going to demean at different times. And they're just super intense and sometimes abrasive, but their players end up loving them, right? Like they want to run through a wall for them. And creating that is so tough. And creating it in high school in this generation is dang near impossible. So we've got to, and I'm sure you hear this a lot too, Ben, because you're in a lot of these. Like you've got to coach hard but love harder, right? Like they've got to know that it's from a place that you can get to with them. And making that transition and has been a challenge for me, and seeing how coach did it, Coach Sampson, but knowing what was behind the scenes and just the underworkings of creating that relationship, I think has helped me, because like you said, having that part of it and being able to communicate in a way, like our whole goal as a high school coach is to tell the truth to a player and allow them the opportunity to accept that, because they know it's coming from a place of love, and improve themselves. Like we could be feeding them lines all we want and making them and their parents feel well, but understand that we love you enough to tell you the truth can sometimes be hard. So we're always kind of constantly working for improving the maturity and the emotional capability of handling that.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't have anything else for you. I know we got about 40 minutes till our next one, so
Sounds
can wrap
good.
up.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, we'll talk soon. Thanks.